Welcome to JavaScript Test Driver. I will try to show you what you need to do to set up an absolute basic setup so that you can run your tests in an automated fashion. The first thing you need is a class under test. So in our particular case, we have created a class called greeter, which has a constructor and a greet method. The greet method simply returns hello, the person's name, and an exclamation point. Notice how we have set up our source folder that contains the greeter, and we also set up our source test folder, which contains a test. In our particular case, here's a test. The test name follows the JUnit testing convention, which means we have a class called greeterTest, which has a test name starting with the word test. The test case is declared in the following fashion. This is done so that the JavaScript test driver knows about all of your test cases. Notice we were trying to follow JavaScript coding convention so that if you are inside of an IDE, your IDE knows the structure of your code. This is not true for something like if your test cases were declared in HTML or in a proprietary format. So this helps great a lot. So now that we have a class under test and a test, we would like to run this thing in an automated fashion. One more thing we need before we can move on to it is we need to tell the JavaScript test driver what to run. So we have to create what we call a configuration file, which we simply save in the root of our project. The configuration file tells us where the server is located. We'll talk about that in a second. This is so we don't have to type the server port number over and over again. And it specifies which files to load. So in our case, we're saying, please load all of the files in the source folder first, and then load all of the files in the source test folder. The order matters since we want to make sure that we load the production code after the test code. You can think of the configuration file something similar to the Java class path. You simply are trying to say what things should be available to the JVM, or in this particular case the JavaScript VM inside of the browser, so that it can perform all of its tests. Once we have finished writing the configuration file, for the most of the time of the project we don't have to worry about, since we can use simply globbing and adding new files. It's not going to be a problem. So the next thing we need to do is we need to start a server. So let's go here, and here is a command you will need to issue to start the server. The JsTestDriver comes in as a single jar file, and you simply invoke it using java-jar JsTestDriver. We're trying to say that we're going to start the server on port 4224. Could be any arbitrary port. And we're also telling this server that it should automatically open up a browser. Now this is a Mac, therefore an open command will automatically open the default browser on your platform. In our case, it's going to be Safari. So when I hit enter, it launches the server and automatically captures Safari browser. As you can see, the browser is captured, and as you can see by this rotating icon up here, the browser is slave to the server, which means the server can ask the browser to perform any operation at any time. Now from this point on forward, you really don't have to worry about the browser, so we're going to go and minimize it. But I want to show you also how you can launch a browser, how you can attach a browser in a manual fashion. So we launched Firefox, and in similar fashion, we can go to the same port number, and you can see that currently we are capturing, we have one browser already captured. This is our Safari, which we captured in automated fashion, but we're going to go ahead and capture this browser as well. So now we have both Safari and Firefox captured to be available for our tests. We can minimize it, and we don't have to worry about the browsers ever again. So this is the server running. It basically is telling you what browsers are captured, etc. Again, you can forget about the server once it's launched. Let's run the test. To run the test, you simply say java-jar JavaScript test driver, and the JavaScript test driver by default goes and looks into the current directory for the configuration file which we have written earlier. This configuration file tells it which source files to load into the slave, and also where the slave is located. So in our case, we said the server was on localhost 4224, but it could be somewhere else. And we're saying we want the JavaScript test driver to run all of our tests. We could also specify it to just a single test to run. And if I hit enter, as you can see, it immediately loaded all of the files into the browsers, both the greeter and the greeter test, and it's showing us that it has executed a total of 2 tests. That's because we had one test which was executed once on Safari and once on Firefox. Both of these tests passed. Now, we would like to take this a step further, and so I have set up my Eclipse to automatically run this command, which I have just issued over here, the JavaScript test all, automatically every time I modify a file. And as a result, this has a great way of developing code. So if I create if I modify this file, as you can see there's a star, and I hit a save, notice that it automatically has executed the test runner in my console. So if I go in here and I say hello period and I save it, it now will automatically says that 2 tests have failed, and it has failed on Safari and also on Firefox, and you can see in detail what the problem was. Says it was expecting hello world period, but it received hello world exclamation point. So now let's go back and change our production code to have a period, hit save, and voila, automatically tests are rerun, and everything is passing. The way we set up Eclipse to automatically run our tests is we simply go into properties, and under builders we have created a JsTestDriver runner. You can simply create it by new, and all the JsTestDriver runner does is invokes Java in the current workspace directory, and the screen is too small so it's hard to see, but it says -- test all at the bottom to just simply execute the files. You then have to tell the build options, again the screen is too small to see, that the files should be executed under every time a file is changed. And that's all. That makes it really easy for you to develop code and write new tests, etc., because every time I hit save, all my tests are rerun, and they run extremely fast, and I never have to go back and forth between the browsers and my development environment, and I can easily capture browsers from other platforms. So for example, this is a Macintosh, but I could have easily captured a browser which would be Internet Explorer from a Windows machine, and that browser doesn't even have to be on my machine. It can actually be on somewhere else in some data center. As long as the browser can be directed into the URL and captured by my server, I'm free to go and run my tests. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you give JavaScript TestDriver a try, and I hope you're going to like and have lots and lots of tests that are enjoyable to write and code. See you later.